Jindra. Let's start with the Nokar mantra. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayaryanam, Namo Uvajayanam, Namo Loe Savasabhunam, Esu Panchakamukaro, Savapava Panasano, Mangalalancha Sarvesim, Paramam Have Mangala. Today we're going to see if ChatGPT is something you can use for spiritual progress and professional progress. Okay, so while you're signing up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it is. So keep going on your phones. So GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and the chat means this is a type of large language model implemented as a chatbot. So a chatbot is software that mimics human conversation through text. All right. The words generative pre-trained transformer have a particular meaning in AI, and that would give you, if you know about the history of AI, that would give you some idea of what technology ChatGPT uses. All right. So I mentioned that it was a large language model. So what is a large language model? A large language model is a neural network with many parameters. So when I say many, I'm talking about a billion parameters, okay? And it's trained on large quantities of unlabeled text, okay? So you just feed it information, you feed it any and all kind of information, you don't have to tell it what it is. So what is a neural network, all right? So we've got a kind of nested definitions we're talking about here. So a neural network is software. Hey, come on in. And the key understanding to the creation of neural networks is that it is somewhat based on the topology of our human brain. So our human brains has neurons and synapses, okay? The neurons fire and they lead electricity through the synapses, and that perhaps causes some other connected neurons to fire. So people tried to implement this in software, and the neurons are called nodes and the synapses are called edges, okay? And so a neural network is a series of nodes connected by edges, and different ones are connected. Each node, the input is a real number and it's weighted. And the edges are the mathematical relationships between nodes, okay? And the key is that these can change. The weights can change. So the relationship between the nodes can change mathematically. That's what we call learning. In fact, that's how learning happens in your brain. That is, the synapses get stronger as they're used more, and the weights change, the quote-unquote weights. That is, they get thicker, the synapses get thicker and able to transport more. So that's why when you smell a particular thing, it reminds you of a particular person, because those synapses those neurons are connected in your brain. Okay.
So there is a documentary on Netflix about how your brain works. So it's basically they are talking about this first prosthetic arm and how it can sense and how, so the whole documentary is on that, and they talk about this nods and edges and stuff like that, and how your brain starts knowing how it works,
right?
And they start memorizing, like, okay, this is how it's, if it moves and how it, so it's very interesting documentary.
Oh, that's great.
Do you know the name of it?
No, you remember?
Think, or how to think, something like that. Something about with think. Think. Okay, something to do with think.
Okay, so the last thing you need to know is that a neural network is in layers, okay? Your brain is not in layers, okay? It's kind of random, kind of all over the place how these nodes and synapses are connected. The only real kind of, different parts of your brain do different things, but it's very malleable. So if you lose a part of your brain, another part of your brain can take over. But there are left and right hemispheres of your brain. So a layer is one of these vertical columns. So here's a node. This is an input. This is the first layer, the second layer, and here's the output. Okay, so that's what I mean by layers. Okay, so it's not like a brain, but it's just got these layers. Okay, so that's the only thing you need to know about that. Okay, so how does it learn? Okay, so let's take an example of how it might learn. A neural network learns because we train it. All right, and so what I will do is I will feed the neural network an input. I will feed it an image. Okay, let's say it's an image of a cat. Okay, and I will tell it, this is a cat. Okay, whenever you see this input, output yes. That means this is a cat. Okay, so you can see how it only has the one image, right? So anything that's not exactly that image, it's going to say it's not a cat. Because it just knows that that one image is a cat. Then I'm going to feed it another image, a different cat. And I'm going to say, this is a cat. Whenever you see this, output yes, this is a cat. And now that it has two, it's going to change the weights between the nodes, okay? And what you'll find is that as I feed it 1 million images of cats, what you'll find out is that one node is responsible, and this is not programmed, it will emerge from the learning. 1 or 2 nodes or a group of nodes are responsible for detecting whiskers. 1 or 2 or more nodes are responsible for detecting 4 legs. 1 or 2 or more nodes are responsible for determining if there's a tail in the picture. Okay? So now that I've fed it images of 1 million cats, now that's the training part. So now I can feed it an unknown image. I will say, is this a cat? And it will tell me if it's a cat or not. And the better I've trained it, the more likely it will give me a correct answer. So that's how we train a neural network to learn. So with ChatGPT, you train it by just delivering it text. And you ask it to predict the next word, the next series of text. Okay? And that's what I want you to try to understand, which is how amazing it is that if I ask it a question and I say, generate a list of 10 books on intellectual property. Okay? It is not using any reasoning. It is not using any type of, oh, I know about this and I'm going to research it and look it up. It is simply predicting what the next words will be after these words. That's all it is doing. You might say, how is that possible? How can it just... It's not answering my question. It's just predicting what the next words are. It's possible because it has been trained on 10 trillion words. Okay? So it's just the size of the data set makes it appear to be having a conversation that you can understand. But it is not thinking at all. Okay? It appears to be thinking. It just like you wouldn't say, if I trained a neural network to notice images of cats, you wouldn't say that that's doing it the same way a thinking person would be doing it. It might be. But you wouldn't call that thinking. But we're simulating thinking. Okay? So that's what's going on. Okay, so questions about that. So ChatGPT is a large language model. So if you talk about what it's trained, the data sets it's trained on Wikipedia. The entire thing, it's trained on GitHub, the entire GitHub, right? It's trained on 10 trillion words. And then after that, you feed it all the unlabeled text, which takes months, right? And then they kind of fine tune it to make it do what they want, the fine tuning of the training. Okay, so questions or comments about that?
Who created this large language models? Who is the original creator of this algorithm that who trains on this and kind of gets you
let's ask ChatGPT. Who created large language models?
It's not one person, but I guess it's a combination of efforts.
Many years, many notable researchers.
Yep.
Google, Microsoft, Facebook, AI. Fair. Here's your answer. Okay. So the history of AI is commonly accepted as started in so philosophers thought about AI, okay, but we're not going back that far. Well, formalized research began in 1956 at Dartmouth Academy. They created a department. Governments mainly donated millions and even billions of dollars into AI. It went nowhere. You had your first AI winter Then somebody decided, hey, AI should be like a neural network. And then millions and billions of dollars invested by companies. That went nowhere. You have your second AI winter. And then somebody decided, hey, the future of AI is large language models. And now we're here.
Makes sense.
And now it's in the 4th or 5th version.
Right.
GPT-4.
The GPT that I had you guys signed up for is GPT 3.5. If you pay $20 a month, you can get GPT-4. That's supposedly much better. I have not used it. I did not pay
It
for it.
is. It's actually, yeah. So no, I've tried it, but from some of the research that my friends have come out with is that it is so powerful that it actually can clear the bar exam by itself.
Oh wow.
It can clear you can get 1500 plus or whatever the score out, right? The GRE and GMAT, whatever the top level scores you would predict, it can get you. It can get there. It can accurately predict diagnosis of issues from a medical standpoint as well.
Yeah.
Right, so just like if you feed it images of cats, you can feed it images of lung cancer, right? And say, this is what lung cancer looks like. Here's a million types of what lung cancer looks like. Tell me, is this lung cancer or not?
I even saw the article about USMLE that
It passes that.
passed that exam.
Exactly.
Great.
And practical applications of how I use it, like for example, we have our year end coming up in my company, so I had 15 reviews to fill out of different people. It used to take me 3 days to do that exercise. This time around, I just asked those people like, hey, tell me what you want me to write about you. So they sent me 5 or 6 bullets, and then obviously I added my perception of what the performance was, and then I put it all in ChatGPT and I just told it, please clean this up for me. And it summarized that entire review, including my comments and their comments, into 1 or 2 paragraphs, and I was able to do that 3-day exercise in 2 hours.
2 hours.
We need like a video tutorial. How to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
It is just fantastic. It is.
All right. So we're in a particular position to grade ChatGPT on the answers it gives us about Jainism, right? So we'll see if it passes those tests, right? And we'll see if it can take my job as a Patsala teacher. All right, and we'll see if it can help your spiritual progress. Okay, so let's everybody log in. You signed up. You logged in. Let's try an easy one. Okay, so in Jainism. Okay, what are the 5 vows? Okay, if anybody knows anything about Jainism, then it will know the 5 vows. All right, so let's see.
So what query did you put in there? What are the 5 vows of Jainism?
I put in Jainism, what are the 5 vows?
Okay.
And it's giving me an answer right now. The 5 vows are ahimsa, non-violence, satya, truthfulness, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, chastity, and aparigraha, non-possessiveness. And it gives me a little blurb about each one of them. So that's great. So it passed our test, okay? I give it an A plus for that answer, okay? It even put it in the right order, okay? That's the order we talk about it in. That's the order we memorize it in, okay? All right, so I'll have you guys think of questions. Let's go a little bit harder, okay? Okay, so how does Jainism
What are the 5?
Jainism reconcile anekantvad with correct knowledge? Okay, does anybody know the answer? So we believe in anekantvad, right? Which is multiplicity of viewpoints, right? We also believe that there is a correct. We also believe there is a correct truth, right? There is the truth. So how does Jainism reconcile anekantvad with correct knowledge? Does anybody have the answer? Does anybody remember when we talked about anekantvad? Okay, so
depends on where you are, you have different viewpoints. So
right.
if you're looking at it different ways, everybody has different viewpoints and they're all correct, but
So is it correct if I tell you that this is blue?
no.
It's not correct, but that's my viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that multiple viewpoints are correct.
Right, but like, if you're looking at, say, an accident from 4 different spots, you'll see it differently.
Right.
That's what I meant by that.
Gotcha. So let's see what ChatGPT says. Anakanvad is a fundamental principle and it talks about what it is, multifaceted viewpoints. At the same time, Jainism also emphasizes samyat gnan, or correct knowledge, right? Which is considered essential for spiritual progress, so you don't have free from any kind of bias. So how does Jainism reconcile these two? According to Jainism, the pursuit of knowledge requires one to embrace the principles of Anakanvad, since any attempt to understand the truth from a single perspective is likely to result in distorted or incomplete understanding. At the same time, Jainism recognizes that not all perspectives are equally valid. Some may be more accurate or truthful than others. In this way, therefore, Jainism emphasizes the importance of critical inquiry, rational analysis. In this way, Jainism reconciles Anakanvad with the pursuit of correct knowledge by recognizing that multiple perspectives are necessary, while also emphasizing critical inquiry and empirical evidence. No, this is not it. Okay? It just decided, it tried to reconcile these, it did not. Okay, so I'll give it a C for that, because maybe it introduced me to some concepts that I can research further. Okay, so I gave it an A+ for the 5 vows. I'll give it a C for that one. Give me a question about Jainism that you have, and we'll type it in to see what it says, and if it can help you with your spiritual progress. Give me a question you know the answer to.
Type of karmas.
How many, or what are they, or okay. What are the different types of karma? Okay. Let's see. Oh no, it's talking about Hinduism. Okay, so.
So he and I, Samkit and I were testing this, and we had a very broad question, right?
Jainism. Yeah.
What are the secrets to living a happy life? It was pretty broad,
Right.
but it gave us a pretty decent answer.
Same thing I did.
And it actually gives a disclaimer that there is. Yeah, I'll see what it says for you.
Alright, so there are different types of karma in Jainism. Gati karma, agati karma. Okay, yeah, 2 types, I guess. Nanavarniya, Darshavarniya, that's correct. It's still generating.
Yeah.
Okay, Mihir wants to know more about the 12 bhavnas. Yes. Okay, so here's what it told me as far as types of karma. Gati and agati, okay, that's fine if you want to call them categories. But then when it went on to Nanavarniya, Darshavarniya, Antaraya, Vedniya, and it counted Gati and agati as 1 and 2, so that's 6. So I'm going to give it a D. Okay, this is not right at all. There are 8 types of karma. There are 4 Gati and 4 agati.
I got 9.
Yeah, you got a different answer, right? Everyone's going to get a different
Exactly.
answer.
So that is the other thing.
Yeah, and so you have to refine the answer based on you. You have to give it feedback.
Right.
And occasionally it will make mistakes, and you have to tell it, no, that's not right. What is the right answer? And it will try to correct the mistakes. So it used to be, you guys are old as me, so it used to be like you and I could Google the same thing and we get the same answers. But it's not like that anymore. Because Google uses your history and it attempts to know what you like and all that stuff, right? So this is the same thing. This, as you use it more, hopefully it will get better. But this is a very poor answer. I'm going to give it a D here. Okay, so it doesn't look good for us. I thought it was going to work because this is like the 5 vows, like the 8 karmas, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to work.
Give me perfect 8.
Oh, I'll give you 8. Oh,
What did you ask?
What
Types of karma in Jainism.
Okay, in Jainism.
So it depends even on
And
the
the
question
question.
or whatever
are
you
the
search for.
8
The kind of
karma.
prompt you provide probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Even Google is the same, right? I mean,
Darshan,
he searches something with different
Monya
words, and I
karma.
search the same thing
Yeah.
with different
Vedniya.
words.
Ayush karma, Nam karma, Gota karma.
See, I'm getting just garbage. I asked it for the 8 karmas. It's telling me Jeev karma and Ajiv karma and Ashraf
wow.
karma. It's telling me that 6 substances. That's what it's telling me.
Yeah.
ChatGPT
confusing.
using in backend Google search engine and given the one answer, right?
Yeah.
The
It's
ChatGPT
Not
was
necessarily Google search engine.
Bing.
might be
It's a mix of
pulling.
LLM to his point.
Right. So I'm not sure. Bing has started using ChatGPT as a backend. Yeah, and Google was flirting with the idea, but they
Bard.
did not
Bard.
come up with
Bard.
Bard, implement
I
it
got
into
David
the
Bard.
I got 8 on Bard.
Okay, great. Okay, so pretty. I wouldn't. It's not going to take my job just yet. Okay? But it's right coming. Okay. Any other questions about Jainism?
Mihira.
Oh yeah, me here. Yeah, that's right.
Well,
In Jainism, thank you. In Jainism, what are the 12 bhavnas? Okay, great. Okay, looking good so far. Anitya bhavna, Asharana bhavna, Samyama bhavna, Ekatva bhavna, that's right. No, now it's starting to go crazy. No, it started off pretty good. Maitri bhavna, no. So reflection on wisdom and spiritual insight, that's fine. Generosity and charity, that's fine. Interconnectedness of all living beings, that's kind of the same thing. Rarity and preciousness of life, that's fine. Okay, so I give it a B for 12 bhavnas. Other questions? Other Jainism topics you have?
Probably. Are there any karma particles on planet Mars?
Are there any... I'll have to put in Jainism. In Jainism, are there any karmic particles on the planet Mars?
According to Jainism.
According to Jainism, karmic matter is closely related to the existence of living beings. Therefore, if there are no living beings on the planet Mars, it can be assumed there's no accumulation of karmic matter on that planet. Jainism emphasizes the existence of living beings. Okay, so it's giving you a half answer.
Yeah.
It's saying because there are no humans there, there's likely no karma there because compared to Earth, there's so much karma here. That's technically not true. Technically, karma floats free throughout the universe and it just attaches to your soul at the time you do action. So if we were to go there, then of course we would get karma even if we were on Mars. I give it a C for that. I thought this was gonna go better. I'm sorry. I really did. I thought like maybe because I'm using it on a different browser, but the browser I used last night was pretty good.
Did you use the same login?
What? No. Yeah, same login.
It's
But
using
what?
your cache of previous searches.
It was working great for me last night. Okay, so I just asked it about 8 karmas. Oh, come on, 4 destructive. Okay. Oh, it's finally giving me a category. Okay, Gati, Nanavarniya, Darshavarniya, Morniya, Antaraya, 4 non. Okay, so give me a perfect answer on the browser that I've been using, but I'm using a totally new one now because I'm sharing it with the Google Meet, so I'm using like a totally new one. Okay, so maybe it might work better as you.
Why would the browser matter?
Because I don't have that history with. Yeah, I'm not sure because it's the same login. I'm not sure why the browser.
So you think last night you were using a different browser and today you're using and you're giving a different
Same
responses.
login. I actually have 2 different browsers up right now. Give me 2 different answers. A better one with the one I was using last night.
On which browser you had a bad experience?
Chrome. And so this is the first time I'm using Chrome because I needed to share the tab with Google Meet. Right?
The good one wasn't stuff from the Edge. Okay.
The good one was Brave, which is a Chromium browser. It's just Chrome, different flavor of Chrome.
Okay.
Okay. So questions or comments about anything we talked about. I can't recommend it based on our experiment today. If you had talked to me last night, I would have recommended it to you. But you want to turn on those fans? Okay. So we talked about how Jainism can help you spiritually. Let us talk about if Jainism can help you professionally. Okay, let me tell you about different things you can ask it to do. A lot of times we don't know what we can ask it to do. We had a little bit of a primer, and feel free to anybody to jump in if you have used this. ChatGPT can give you suggestions. So for example, you can ask it for, let's say you're in IT, we have a lot of IT people here, we can say, recommend me 5 books on IT development. Okay, so ChatGPT can recommend things to you, and it can recommend a particular number of things to you. Okay, so it's typing an answer. It's giving me 5 books. Code Complete by Steve McConnell. It gave me a little blurb. Clean Code by Robert Martin. The Phoenix Project by Gene Kim. The Lean Startup by Eric Rise. And Designing Data-Intensive Applications by Martin Kleppman. All right, so it gave me a little blurb about each one. So you can ask it to recommend you things in your field. Okay? You can ask it for translations. ChatGPT is a better translator than Google Translate, which you might be used to using, because it understands the context of things and it understands the context of a conversation. And so, as you know, that is very key in translation, right? And so it's going to be a better translator for you in case you need to translate something for your work. You can ask it to compare different things, and it will tell you the strengths and weaknesses of different things. So you can ask it to compare stocks and bonds, for example. This is a kind of basic example, but let's see what it says. Let me share this again with everybody online. Okay. All right, so stocks and bonds are 2 common investment vehicles. Here are the differences that are important to understand. Ownership, stock represents ownership in the company, while bonds are a form of debt. That's true. Risk, stocks are generally considered to be riskier. Generally if you're comparing it to treasuries. Return, stocks generally have the potential to provide higher returns. Income, stocks typically provide an income. Liquidity, time horizon. Okay, so not too bad, especially about if you want to learn some more concept for research. So you can ask ChatGPT to compare different things for your work. You can ask it to write creatively. I don't think a lot of us do a lot of creative writing, but if you have to and you're not used to it, you can ask it to do it, right? So you can ask it something like,
show it to the kids.
write a short story about a little girl who meets a leprechaun at the end of a rainbow. Okay? Alright, so let's see how good this story
is. You have to write it in a language. So he wrote it in English and he translated it for them. And he presented it. One of their classmates in Jainism, in Krish's class, he did it in Gujarati, and he said whatever he wrote in English and he translated it in Gujarati and he presented it. It was really nice.
Oh, that's great. We're gonna have to beef up those plagiarism things here at the Jain Center. Okay, so I asked it to write a short story about a little girl who meets a leprechaun at the end of the rainbow. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Molly. She was curious and adventurous. One day she was playing in a meadow. She decided to follow a rainbow that she saw. It sounds better. I don't want to bore you with it. Molly walked and walked. She followed the rainbow. She approached the end of the rainbow. She saw a tiny figure. It was a leprechaun. The leprechaun looked up at Molly with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. Well. The leprechaun introduced himself as Seamus and told Molly he was the keeper of a great treasure. Seamus offered to show Molly the way to the pot of gold. They set off together after she hesitated after many hours of walking. What happened? They found where the pot of gold was hidden. Molly's heart raced as she watched Seamus dig up the pot. Seamus offered Molly a handful of gold. Molly smiled and thanked him. As the sun began to set, she made her way back home. Okay, so it did what I wanted. Okay. Obviously, the quality of it will depend on whatever your
That's the story was made up?
Yeah.
If you Google just Molly and Leprechaun, it comes up on Amazon.
Right. So now you're seeing it was trained on these different things, right?
Shouldn't it be unique?
To sell something.
Well, I didn't ask it to be unique. I just asked it for a story about a little girl and a leopard. If you ask it for a story about something that's very well known, it will tell you that thing. Last night I asked it for a story about a frog and a scorpion, and it told me the parable of the frog and the scorpion, just like that. And I didn't ask it to be original; it just told me that story, which you might know the frog takes a scorpion across the river, and the scorpion stings it, and the frog says, well, why did you sting me? We're both gonna die. And the scorpion says, because it's in my nature.
What was your prompt? Did you put it?
For that one or for the Mali one?
Just Mali.
Oh, I asked it to
Right.
write a short story about a little girl who meets a leprechaun at the end of a rainbow. Okay, so it can do creative writing for you, but it will probably take it from somewhere. So don't try to pass it off as your own.
Change the names.
So ChatGPT can perform brainstorming for you. So we have some people in industry here. So let's say brainstorm ideas on how to save money in a manufacturing process. Okay, so I have no idea. Sometimes you just need ideas for group work, and you need to get your mind going in different directions, so it will do that, right? So ChatGPT has given me a little blurb about each of these items, and these items are: optimize the production process, use high quality materials, implement energy efficient practices, reduce labor costs, implement a predictive maintenance program. Okay, that's nice, I like that one. That's something I might not have thought of, right? Improve inventory management, implement a quality control program, explore alternative packing and shipping methods. And they gave me a little blurb about each one. Okay, so questions or comments about that? Tell me, how can ChatGPT help you with your work? We have people in IT here, we have project management here, we have people in the beverage industry here, we have people in oil and gas here. So tell me the questions that you want me to ask you.
So I'll give you my experience.
Sure.
I've been using it for quite a while. Recently, I'm part of this company we started for healthcare, and I had to fire a CEO. So I called my attorney. She was busy. So the first thing that came to my mind, let me ask ChatGPT to write up a letter, a termination. Did that amazing letter. Then Timmy came to my mind. So I told ChatGPT, assume I'm an attorney. And I gave the keywords of what an attorney would think like. So I told it, I'm an attorney specializing in business. My CEO did whatever XYZ wrong and wanted a nice termination letter. Give me a nice detailed termination letter.
Right.
Boom. Then I used the same thing for bylaws, for minutes, updated the whole thing, 30 minutes, 35 minutes.
Now your real job is in jeopardy.
Sure. Doctors and lawyers think they're in privileged positions with regard to technology. It's just not true. It's just not true. Everybody's at risk, and everybody is in line to be automated.
Correct. Okay.
But I've heard that you can write a very complex terms and conditions and give it as an input and tell it to highlight what are the non-standard terms and conditions in this big TNC's document that I should be aware of, and it will give you just a summary of the 5 or 6 items that are non-standard that you should be aware of.
Right. A recent experience, and maybe I need help if somebody is using ChatGPT. So I'm doing an audit of a complex, it's called a real estate owner finance. This guy has more than 1,500 homes and doesn't know where the money is coming in and going out. So gave me an Excel with a bunch of variables. So I was able to watch a video where I can integrate ChatGPT in Excel through a macro, give it in a command in Visual Basic or whatever it is, and it will find me what I'm looking for. Haven't been successful doing it. It just needs time, but if somebody has an experience, I would take them as a partner to do this.
Right, the example that blew my mind was, if you're a content creator, you need to constantly pump out content, right? So you can ask ChatGPT, let's say you're a motivator, like a fitness motivator, right? And you can ask ChatGPT to create a list of 100 motivational quotes, right? And you copy those quotes onto an image, and that's your 100 tweets right there for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? And so it definitely can save you time there.
So, but if it's using the one that's already out there, someone else is using, is that like copyright issue or anything, or you can still use it?
Well, certainly that those questions are being hashed out right now.
Correct.
Let's say let's use that Mali example. I presented that work as my own. It's actually a book that somebody is selling, right? Well, that person could certainly sue me for copyright infringement, whether I pointed the finger at ChatGPT or not, right? And so we are headed into a new world in that respect. So
things like medicine and legal, like if you're trying to do something like solve somebody's health issue, I wouldn't go search ChatGPT and just take it for granted, right? Because it could be a D answer. You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You still probably need the doctor, but they can probably save time on their side.
Exactly.
Understanding latest research, or whatever. But like the images, like I once used the Bing image creation, which is AI now, and I did something very basic, like show me a picture of Samir drinking too much caffeine in front of a Starbucks, and I wanted it for a joke I was sending out, and it Samir is my name. It just made a kind of a Indian-looking person with his hair frazzled and the Starbucks logo. It was really good. They gave me 3 options. And so like it's like a Photoshop. If you go tell somebody to do a Photoshop, that's like days turnaround time versus just seconds.
That's right. It's called a doll-e, right? DALL-E.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just went to
Doll.
yeah, DALL-E is the text-to-image generation. Yeah, on our website, the latest kind of posts that I've been making, those have all been AI images when I asked it to make those images. So let's keep going. You can ask it to summarize text. I won't do the example. I was going to do all these examples, but we're running out of time here. You can ask it to summarize text. You can copy a bunch of text that somebody sent you, for example, for work. You can put it in the chat box, the entire text. You can say, summarize this text, and you type a colon, you just paste it all in there, and it will give you like summary. And if you want it shorter, you can say, make this summary 50 words for this block of text. So that can help you at work. It certainly can do that. It can generate lists for you. So you can use it just like you would use, for example, Google. You can generate a list of the 10 richest counties in the U.S., right? Let's say you needed that for business. You could have it generate a list like that. You can ask it to generate pros and cons. So what are the pros and cons of investing in certain things? Or what are the pros and cons of certain technologies? So you can ask it for strengths and weaknesses, and it will give you that. We talked about quotes. It can give you a bunch of quotes by a bunch of famous people if you need that for your PowerPoint presentations at the beginning, you know?
Is it only looking at information that is public? Or is it also looking information that is confidential?
It's only looking at information that is ChatGPT, I think, is only public. They didn't feed it any confidential information for liability concerns.
Reports which are paid for it, right? It won't go and look into that.
Right. And also, it only knows stuff until a certain year. So if you ask it stuff about something that happened last month, it's not going to know about it. Right? I think the year is 2021.
Right.
Okay.
Also, you ask very specific question for an individual, it will say, even if I know, I will look at it because it's confidential. So it actually pushes back on those things.
And recently I asked for a data, and it gave me data but was not relevant.
Right.
So you really have to be careful with the results it gives.
Right.
It's like, it's converged a lot of searches of Google into one.
Right.
Yes, me here.
I think for that you need to know at least a little bit of the answer,
Absolutely.
then you would be able to know whether this is right or wrong.
It makes sense.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What I have to know is, like, as you mentioned, like, if you have something that you want to summarize, you can put it in there, in ChatGPT, and it can help you. But at that point, does the information that you put in can be available to anybody? And, like, let's say if it's work information, is there a risk of putting stuff out there that you might not intend to do so?
Yes, I would think so. I wouldn't put any confidential information as queries into ChatGPT. I would think you're putting your company at risk, and I don't recommend you put any kind of confidential information in the form of a
I think
query.
the companies are having their own ChatGPT version,
Right.
which keeps the information from going.
That's right. So if you think it might be right for your company, then ask to partner with OpenAI, the company that makes it, and have your own implementation of it to keep it secure on your network.
So apparently ChatGPT is good at coding languages.
Yes.
So if you have something written in C++ and you want to move it to Python,
right?
It'll convert it. But then people were doing that at work and putting confidential code into ChatGPT. There was a bunch of companies that said no, this disabled it on their work computers because you don't want to have that code out there. You know?
Samsung had a big issue with that.
Yeah.
They leaked confidential code for optimizing that code.
Right.
Yeah, companies are putting that blockage on this, but there are certain companies like Otter AI who actually can be your aid. So, for my group, project management group, we are trying to work with our internal legal team to see if we can incorporate it. So what happens is when you are in the meetings with 15 people, Otter AI is one of the attendees of the meeting. It will summarize the meeting minutes, gives you the action items.
Right.
It saves a lot of time on it. So that's one of the applications we are experimenting yet. It's not finalized yet, but that's one of that. T's and C's is one of that, very big for the large contracts.
Right.
That's why we are trying to feed that information through it and come up with the risks, all the risk analysis. So we are working through that too.
So that AI is just taking the audio and transcribing it by person and making minutes?
Yeah, meeting minutes and action items.
Yeah.
Microsoft is also
Teams are
the
that
same.
It's your time.
Copilot.
It's coming.
Copilot, yeah.
I know we have some people in the healthcare field here. If you ask it for ChatGPT for studies about medical studies, it will give you that. Even other types of sociology studies, for example, show me the latest 5 studies on sleep. And then it will give you 5 citations, and then you can look those up on your own. ChatGPT can give you feedback about text that you wrote. So, for example, if you paste your text in that says, hey, this is what I wrote, tell me what's wrong with this, tell me how I can improve the flow or anything like that, it will tell you about that, so it can be your English tutor. It can explain concepts to you, so it's better in Google in that regard because it's a conversation, right? So if I ask Google, how does a compressor work? Google is going to give me a list of websites that are kind of relevant, and it's just companies that have trying to get me to their page, right? That's label their page, how does compressor, and if you want compressors, buy my compressor, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like that. But if I want to understand how something works, ChatGPT is a better resource because it has no ulterior motive or anything like that. It's just going to explain it to me. And if I can say, explain it to me at a 10th grade level or at a 5th grade level or something like that. So it will help out with children as well.
Interestingly, though, when you go to Google that type of question, I usually read 3-4 links because they don't all say the same thing.
Right.
ChatGPT is going to give you one version of its truth, and then you still don't know if it's 100% right. I mean, is that an A+ answer or a D answer? It's like,
right. The next is you can use it to do different role playing, as Kinjal mentioned when he asked it to pretend he was a lawyer. The example that I used was, I'm going to be interviewing with Facebook, okay? So pretend you're the interviewer and I'm the interviewee and ask me questions, okay? So you can use it as a role-playing thing, or if you want to practice an interview, if you want to, and if you become more specific, it will give you better answers. Next, you can use it to create, this might not be for your work, but might be for personal. You can use it to create an itinerary. You can ask it to create, let's see, create a 2-week itinerary for India. Okay, so I asked it to create a 2-week itinerary for India. So let me see what it tells me, and you guys will tell me if it's good or not. We can grade it, okay?
It's a very broad question, right? So they'll try to
somewhere else.
If you tell it what you like, then
if
it will be better.
small one, like just a Disney World or something that, because we tried to do it for Orlando, and Orlando has so much to do in 1 week, right? So we will try to fix it half a day in Disney World, like this park, half a day in I'm like, it's
not
humanly not possible
Yes,
to do
not
that. Because then it wants to add you a zoo, a sea world. I'm like, I don't care to do all that stuff. But it tried to do the best of what it was.
So it told me day 1 to 3, visit Delhi, Red Fort, and Jama Masjid in Old Delhi. Take a rickshaw ride in Chandi Chowk.
Oh, wow.
Okay, visit Humayun's tomb in New Delhi. Day 4 to 5, go to Agra, visit the Taj Mahal, explore the Agra Fort. Day 6 to 7, visit Jaipur, the Amer Fort, explore the markets for Rajasthani souvenirs. Day 8 through 9, go to Udaipur, take a boat ride on Lake Pichola. Day 10 through 11, day 12 through 13, go to Varanasi. Day 14, Mumbai. Okay, so it gave me visit the Gateway of India, explore markets. So it gave me an itinerary. I may not like it, but it's somewhere to start.
Yeah.
And he makes a good observation though, that some of those were very heavily influenced Mughal places. Again, I'm not trying to make this political or something like that, but it was interesting.
Right.
It was interesting to observe that.
So there were not many places. they did not suggest any places, even though there are not old temples.
And that's a great point, right? The biases of what it does are baked into it, right? The biases are baked into it, and then you cannot help it. You can kind of adjust it or whatever, but you have to be mindful. It's like another person, right? If you're talking to another person, you gotta be like, oh well, he's from the south, so he's gonna do things from the south. Right?
So you read till 15 days. Does it show south later on?
2 weeks. He said 2 weeks, yeah.
Okay, so if you don't take away anything from our discussion, just take this one away. You can ask ChatGPT what you can ask it to do. Okay? So if you don't know what it can do, you can ask it to help you. You can say, what can you do what can you help me with regards to this text? And it will give you a list and say, it'll give you the list that I gave you. I can summarize it for you. I can translate it for you. I can do this. If you just ask it, how can you help me with my trip to India? Then it will tell you how it can help you. Okay? So if you don't know anything, then just ask it how it can help you regarding your problem. And it will tell you the best thing that it can do.
You know, he just asked me, why didn't he say anything about Jain? So I put in, I'm a Jain, plan a 10-day trip to India.
Right.
And the first thing, like it gave me all our
temples,
all our temple, Palitana, Savan Belgoda, Girnar, Ranakpur. Like, oh my God, Pavapuri, Delhi.
Right.
Third one is Mount Abu.
Oh, yeah.
What's in there?
The Jain temple.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
Dilwara. So I guess also it depends on how much search people are doing. Will it create more answer related to that?
Yeah, probably.
I'm not sure that it uses search as an input. It probably does, but I cannot tell you the answer. I'm not sure that it trains itself based on searches that you put in.
But it
Probably does. It
the
seems like a
answers,
great
right?
idea.
It improves the answers when you ask and you give the feedback, then it changes.
Because it's trying to constrain its answer to a certain amount of time. It could write an hour about Shakespeare, right? But if you say, who is Shakespeare, it's not going to write it. It's going to try to constrain it to about 3 paragraphs, and it can spit it out to you in 30 seconds. That's why. Questions or comments? So the takeaway here is that it can help you spiritually and it can help you professionally, but you just got to keep an eye on it. So of course the thing that people are going to say when it gets to be sophisticated enough, and even in general, is, well, is it conscious, right? And you might think that the answer is that it's pretty straightforward from a Jainism perspective. It doesn't have a soul, so it's not conscious. And consciousness is the property that the soul gives to the body, right? But we think some weird things are conscious. Does anybody know the one-sense beings?
Plants.
Plants are one sense. What else is one sense?
Cells.
Some cells are one sensed, yeah, especially singular cell beings, eukaryotes.
Viruses, bacteria.
Right?
Yeah.
Did anybody know that fire is alive? Fire is a one sense being. Fire, air, earth, and wind.
Yeah.
These things have souls. Okay? I'm not sure. Here's what I think might be happening. Somebody in ancient times asked Mahavir, does the earth have a soul? Mahavir says yes. Why? Because whatever that person was planning on doing to the earth was going to kill all the bugs in the earth. All the microscopic materials that live in the earth, right? Somebody asked Mahavir, well, does fire have a soul? And Mahavir said yes. Well, why? Whatever you plan on doing with the fire was you're probably not supposed to do it because it's going to harm microscopic living beings, right? So if you take a look, it's like this eating after sunset thing, right? Well, you can't eat after sunset because you're Jain. Why? Well, because back then they didn't have electricity, so you're going to have a lot of insects in your food, potentially, right? So I don't know. So if you take it from that perspective, then it's clear that this whatever kind of sophisticated version of a AI robot you can imagine doesn't have a soul. But if you take it from the literal perspective that the Earth has a soul, I don't know, maybe the robot does have a soul. So we'll see. Me and you will see together. Thank you so much for your time this week. I really appreciate that. I hope it will help you spiritually and professionally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.